Welcome to another week of Indie Game Showcase here on the Game Wisdom channel. Every Wednesday night we play dev-submitted games and demos, and these videos are the recaps of it. And unless I otherwise say it, all these were played with press keys. And if you would like to submit a game for a future one, please get in touch. We are beginning with the very weirdly looking Tamarin here. So, this is a game that it starts off with you playing as this lovely little creature whose family has been kidnapped. And you need to go throughout this world doing platforming, running, jumping, and solving environmental style puzzles to find MacGuffins to open up the story. So this all sounds like a perfectly normal or well-trodden 3D platformer. And then a hedgehog decides to hand you a gun and asks you to kill everyone in the area. And then suddenly this game turns into Jet Force Gemini style. So when we play this, it's definitely an interesting mishmash of 3D platforming with the shooting. You can only do the platforming when your gun is holstered. So the game kind of falls into this almost like two kinds of design between the platforming and the shooting. Now, the idea is that the shooting sections are unlocked by performing tasks and finding MacGuffins in the open world. And while I did like it, it wasn't as fine-tuned as I would have liked to have seen. The shooting is your basic, kind of third-person shooting variety. You need to use the lock-on in order to be able to target enemies at different elevations. And the overall exploration is your basic variety, that each area will have different collectibles, which in turn will act as gatekeeping for new areas. With that said, my issue with Tamarin is that both systems I don't feel are compelling enough to stand on their own. If you played a 3D platformer like Yooka-Laylee that came out a few years ago, then Tamarin has that kind of similar style, that each area, while open, is still on the linear side in terms of what you need to do in order to gain whatever MacGuffins you need. The platforming itself is basic as well. You're not going to have too much in terms of different tech and things to do. It's an interesting combination. If you are looking for something that's a little bit different compared to some other 3D platformers, I would say check this one out. But keep in mind that neither system is really going to be doing anything you haven't already seen before. Now, from there we turn to Hell Architect. Now, this was a demo that we played during one of the festivals. And obviously what you see may not represent the current version of it. So what we have here is essentially, I guess, the Hell edition of something along the lines of Auction Not Included, or a Dwarf Fortress-like. The concept is that we are literally raising hell, and it's our job to build the most effective, efficient, and I guess soul-crushing hell that you can imagine, using your people here as labor, as well as punishing them to gain resources that can be used to unlock more stuff. And from them that we played, it very much falls in that line of, here's an auction not included, but it's more on the masochistic, demonic angle as opposed to sci-fi. And as you go on, you'll have to kind of meet the needs/demands of the people in order to get the most suffering out of them. And you do this by building different traps that correspond to various traits, which will earn you suffering, which is one of the resources that you'll need. And it's similar to some of the lines of Auction Not Included. As the game goes on, you'll unlock more sinners, which will let you expand your base and your clientele. Now, the demo itself, again, is on the basic side. We didn't get to see too much of it, but this does seem like it could be an interesting take on, again, this Auction Not Included, Dwarf Fortress, or even Prison Architect. Now, my one, I think, major concern outside of just UI UX is how emergent is this gameplay going to be. One of the big things that made Auction Not Included so popular was the entire physics system of how water, gas, and solids interacted with each other. setting up electrical grids and doing all that other crazy thing that can lead to some very dynamic and just crazily designed bases. And I don't know if Hell Architect is going to go that far, or really, what is kind of the mid to late game aspect of this design. And again, we couldn't see that in a demo. So if you are looking for another take on that kind of colony sim aspect, this one could be interesting to keep an eye on, especially when it is released. I believe there is a prologue edition. I don't know if they're going to go into early access with it. Up now we have Tin and Kuna. This is a 3D action platformer in similar vein to stuff like Banjo-Kazooie, Ukulele, Mario, and so on. Our story is that the world has been uprooted after, I believe our friend Kuna here has taken one of these cores, or these orbs that are keeping the world in bounds. So up to Tin to save the day. So the structure of this game is similar to kind of the floating island concept of something like Snake Pass or Mario Galaxy, where each level takes place in this self-enclosed area. Our key mechanic is being able to bounce and roll around, I guess Sonic style minus the super speed. The goal is to collect all the MacGuffins, do it without dying obviously, and get these orbs into their respective places in order to rewrite or bounce out everything again. So the game itself definitely falls into, I think, the solid category. There's nothing here that I would say stands out to me, either good or bad, but it's very competent in, I think, what the core gameplay loop wants to be. You're going to be doing all these staples of 3D platforming. Jumping and running across crumbling platforms, avoiding obstacles, again, collecting the various objects. None of this, I would say, is on the difficult side. If you've played, any other 3D platformer that's been released, this should be very familiar to you. And again, the only real thing that kind of stands out is that you have to kind of push these objects or these orbs into their respective areas. Now, if you fail like I just did, the orb comes back, thankfully, so you don't have to worry about any, hardcore permadeath options. And ultimately, there isn't a whole lot for me to say good or bad about Tin and Kuna. Like I said, if you are a fan of 3D platforming, and you're looking for another one to check out, I would say give this one a look. Again, it's a very competently made game, but if you dinged a game like Ukulele for not really, pushing barriers or doing anything evolving for the genre, then I don't think Tin and Kuna is going to work for you. It's just a very solid example of all the elements that we've seen before in other 3D platformers. With that said, we're going to take a quick break now, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for this spotlight. And now for a quick thank you to our current Patreon supporters. And if you're interested in my books on design, they are available at most major retailers. 20 Essential Games to Study is for first-time developers looking to be inspired, and the Game Design Deep Dive series covers the history and philosophy of major genres, with horror coming later in 2021. For our next game, we have the Hand of Merlin. This was a demo we played during the festival. And our concept here is, what if medieval knights had to fight Lovecraftian monsters? And it's not a bad concept for a game. Our story involves, of course, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and we have been summoned by Merlin, as apparently Lovecraftian monsters are making their way through England. And it's going to be up to us and our merry band of heroes to fight our way across, gain more power, and, fight. I assume Cthulhu is going to be a final boss at some point in this game. Now, the demo from what we played introduces our basic elements, and On the map here, you'll have free reign to move around as long as you have enough food and resources for each trip. It reminds me a little bit from when I played Renowned Explorers International Society. And you'll come to events which will allow you to gain items and gear for each character. Combat is turn-based, with a focus on managing AP or action points and staying behind cover to avoid range fire. Although you can certainly have characters who rush into melee range to try and keep those ranged characters from attacking or getting away. Now, from what I played of it, you are free to move around and of course attack with any number of your abilities that you see along the bottom pane. If characters are behind cover, there is a chance that they will block attacks. They'll dodge it. Now, every character has health and armor, and as per rules of these games, you must deal with armor before you can attack their health. And you're going to need to manage resources, healing items, and again, be able to keep yourself alive on the main map and get the resources you need from here. Overall, this feels just like a decent tactical strategy game. And part of my issue with the demo was I didn't really see anything beyond that. You are free to mix and match character skills, match classes, and try and build your party how you see fit. And of course, fighting humans versus the Lovecraftian monsters are a different story. And you'll have to make use of different powers and items to kind of give you the edge. And you can also give characters special items that they can bring into combat, such as potions and relics that can help them out as well. Again, overall, it does seem like it's going to be on the challenging side. Forget what difficulty we play this on stream, but I'm always looking for another tactical strategy roguelike kind of design, especially after Renowned Explorers. So this one could be worth keeping an eye on, and I do hope they maybe add a little bit more style to the aesthetics, as it did seem like a little bit plain, at least with everything zoomed out, as you can see right here. Now we have Overloop, and this was another demo that we played. With the main concept here is a puzzle platformer. Think, I guess, the Swapper with a pinch of Portal thrown in. We have a device here that lets us create clones, and we are trying to solve a mystery about what is going on, as people are now rioting and arguing about whether or not clones have free will, rights, and kind of seems like an extension of what the plot was going for with the Swapper. Now, while the Swapper was more on a platform or more on the puzzle side, here this is just going to be more puzzle platforming. So our character can run, double jump, shoot his little laser gun, and the challenge is just basically setting up clones in order to perform the various tasks. As you can see, you can have clones be killed, and as long as your main character survives, you can create them provided you have resources. That is the crystal that you see at the top left corner of the screen. And the puzzles themselves are all going to be built on trying to command your character. So you can see giving everybody a little hand, and I'm sure they'll introduce more crafty challenges as things go on. You can switch between your various clones or create them whenever you would like. Overall, this is one of those games that it does have a decent hook to it, and I'm curious to see where they're going to go in terms of the actual puzzle solving with this mechanic. And it's kind of weird that I've been playing a few more games lately that all involve this whole, cloning, live, die cycle for puzzle design. Maybe we're entering the masochistic phase of puzzle design from the independent space. But for right now, Overloop, has some potential to it. It has charm. It seems to be, I would say, on the moderately challenging side, at least from what I've played. And could be an interesting game to play if you're looking for another take on puzzle platforming. For our final game in this video, we have Uragun. That is the name of it, as you see down there. Now, this was a demo that we play, and developers, I believe, are planning to go into early access when the game is released. And if the title didn't clue you in, this is a game about shooting lots and lots of things. It's your job to try and save the world, or kill the bad guy, or just shoot a lot of stuff. The game doesn't really give us a whole lot in terms of deep lore here. But our main concept is that you can control, or you can decide which weapons you can bring into a mission. And part of the fun and challenge of this game is picking the right weapons for the right job, as well as special abilities. You have that kind of heat meter that you can see build up below my health bar. And when it fills up, we can't really attack or do anything, so you need to be really careful in terms of how you use your weapons and special abilities. The style reminds you a little bit of that Anomaly, I think, Warzone game that came out a few years ago, in terms of like the, gray and brown kind of aesthetic with the top-down shooting. And ultimately, from what I played this demo, this seems like it could be a fairly decent top-down twin-stick shooter. Now, we played the demo a few times during our run of it, and the level design didn't really change, or the obstacles that we face. So it seems like the key, or the major change, is going to be what weapons and abilities you bring in. And my concern is whether or not there's enough here from a design standpoint to keep somebody invested from beginning to end. And that is very hard to read from a demo like this. Again, the basic moment-to-moment gameplay I think works really well. I don't know if they are planning on doing this multiplayer at this time, but if you are looking for a twin-stick shooter, I would say check this one out, but I'll be definitely keeping an eye on whether or not there's any more growth in the main game compared to this demo. As always, if you would like me to take a look at your game in the future, please get in touch, and we're going to wrap things up for this week's Spotlight. Again, these spotlights are held on Wednesday nights, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.